We are back. This is Gunkclimber coming back, talking about climbing, and this is first person beta, and you can find a lot of stuff on his channels, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. What else am I missing here?
I mean, YouTube. I kind of use the Instagram as
you got your own website too.
Yeah, I do have my own website.
That's just firstpersonbeta.com.
Yep. Yeah,
all right, check it out.
Yeah, I know one of the more recent videos we featured, and I say we because it was actually you climbing, was your rope soloing triumvirate.
Yep.
Now, I know you wanted to talk about this, and rope soloing is on this obscure discipline within like the whole rock climbing, umbrella.
There is not much information on it, and it is extremely dangerous, I think.
Yeah, I mean, do you know of any formal, formal documentation?
There's one that I know of. It seems to be pretty popular as far as I know. It's Giannis Camus, and I think that's a Facebook group, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a lot of information there, a lot of people talking rope soloing, top rope soloing, lead soloing. They talk about all of it. It's a pretty good group to check out if you've never checked it out and are interested in rope soloing. They do have some interesting devices. They have all the devices. The top one is the silent partner. It seems to be the safest and the best one to use if you are, especially if you're lead climbing. Top rope, there's other devices that work well. But as far as like if you're actually leading and doing anything big, a lot of the guys who do anything big in Yosemite, they usually use a silent partner, or at least try to get one. They're hard to find. They don't sell them anymore, and you can usually find them on eBay from $500 to $1,000. So
that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, if you're dumb like me, you just use a Wild Country Revo, and there's some advantages and disadvantages, and it could fail.
Yeah. Well, like what are those advantages and disadvantages?
I love the Revo just because it feeds. It feeds so well that you can just climb and it doesn't jam up like any other device. I've tried a couple devices, GriGris, etc. I've tried the ClickUp, and the ClickUp was actually catching on me. Plus, it failed on me when I fell. I
remember you mentioned that. Yeah,
I have tested that one, and I was taking falls, and I tied a knot in the rope, just so the knot will catch me before I hit the ground, obviously. And I totally failed, and the knot actually caught. I've never had a problem with the GriGri. I've heard people say that the GriGri could fail, it could catch, where it would just keep it open, etc. Anything's possible when you rope solo. Any device I think could fail, even possibly the silent partner. I just think it has the least percentage of a chance of failing. The Revo, I mean, as much as I'd love it and all, it could fail too because it's a complicated device. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And if any of those things, get messed up, it could fail.
I mean, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, like, why don't you describe like the whole setup as far as rope soloing goes? I mean, as far as I understand it, you can, if you just set up a top rope, all right, you affix a rope to the top of the climb, and then you on your harness, you're just self-belaying off of a GriGri. I mean, really, I guess you can't use an ATC. Well, if you're brave, you could use an ATC.
I used a GriGri where I've actually tied the bottom, and then as you climb, the GriGri just slides up the rope, and you don't really have any problem, and you can just fall on the GriGri.
On a GriGri? I've never had that.
So if you tie the bottom of the rope, and as you climb, it'll just slide through the GriGri. So when you fall, it'll just catch.
I mean, like I've done that.
You don't want it too tight because then it
won't catch. Yeah, well, it won't even slide through.
Yeah.
I mean, a GriGri will slide through if you tie it off the bottom.
A GriGri will slide through if it's tied. But if you don't have it tied, like a lot of people will just throw a rope off of the top of a cliff, tie it an anchor at the top and then just throw it off and then weight it somewhat. Sometimes people use rope bags and put stuff in the rope bags to kind of weight it, because all you need is a little bit of weight for certain devices. But if you're using a GriGri like I was, I have it tied at the bottom, and then as I climb, it'll just kind of catch.
You see, like the only like rope soloing, I mean, I've done like the rope soloing that you do, which we'll get to in a minute, but like, I mean, the only stuff I've really done is like top rope soloing, which is you're fixing a line, and I do it like on real hard climbs. You know, if you're going to work out moves, and
well, you've just used a GriGri on lead, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. But you know, in those cases, like even when I was doing that, I either use a GriGri, or if I had a micro traction, I would use that, and I prefer the micro traction because it just it moves, the rope moves through it so much easier.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do that on lead.
No, I know, but
top rope, I would probably do it on lead.
Well, so in the case of like if you're doing it on lead, and if you're really concerned about, I mean, it's understandable because those things are not rated. They're not rated to take falls. You know, now on top rope, I'm only ever using them on top rope. So like there should always be kind of like a tension between the top of the rope and the device. But even in that scenario, what you can do is you can take an ascender and then you can affix that below it, and you sort of drag that up. So it just gives you a level of redundancy. Now this isn't the top ropes. When you say top rope soloing, what you've been doing, because like you've been doing a lot of it.
Leading.
Yeah, you're always leading. Which is a whole different like.
Actually, I don't actually top rope solo at all. I don't even know really. Well, I guess if you just want to get out for the day and you want to set up a rope, I guess somewhere, and you just want to climb, but I say start from the ground up.
Right. Well, that's yeah.
So I mean, and that adds the danger of everything failing. So yeah, it definitely. I do tie knots. That's the reason why I use a backpack, because if you just leave the rope on the ground and you have all the knots in it, as you climb and pull that rope up, it is very possible that could jam on a crack, and then you're just stuck.
Why don't you describe the system all the way from your anchor, just in, you know, so when you say your backpack, like obviously it's on your back, but, and you have all the rope in it, but why is that necessary? So why don't we just describe the system in its entirety?
All right. So why don't I do this? Why don't I just describe one on when I was at the Delaware Water?
Sure.
Gap.
Yeah, that's what
I was doing. So when I was there, you don't always have this option, but there was a tree, and I had a longer rope, so I tied basically an anchor to the tree and anchored into the tree, and then I went to the climb, which was 10 feet to the right, and then I made an anchor there, and because I had a lot of gear, and I just built something there, and then that's where I started. And then basically I have the rope in a backpack. I was using 100 meters, and it barely made it to the ground. That's a pretty high climb. That's definitely it's probably 50.
That's almost a lot of weight to carry.
It is, but I do it a lot.
Yeah.
It's about a 50-meter climb. So if you don't have a 100-meter, you can't really get down easily. And, you could trail a rope, I guess. Another thing you could do is if you just have a 50-meter rope, you could climb to the top, anchor, and then wrap down, clean everything, go back up, and then get your stuff. But you still can't really get down unless there's a walk off from the top.
Yeah.
So it's just easier for me with the 100-meter. I just have it in a backpack. I have knots every 10 feet maybe. I just kind of do it, when I'm putting in the bag. I was tying a knot, get some more, tie a knot, put it in the bag. And the knots are important because if something would fail with the Revo, there's nothing that's going to catch me before I hit the ground.
So, yeah, just to continue your system, like you have, you tie it off to a tree.
Yeah.
And then you have it running. Well, you actually had it running in the video anyway. And we'll post a link to this because it's worth taking a look at this. You have it running to a bite, I think, or
no, that was a clove hitch on the anchor.
No, I had it before you got to the anchor though. You had a bite, and then I think you had all your gear, like a bunch of backpacks and stuff attached to that.
I do use a backpack.
Yeah.
I've read, I think in Giannis's group, actually, they were talking about backpacks, how they don't really do anything, but I don't care. It's not that much slack. If you're going to fall, what's the difference between 10 and 20 feet anyway? It's just, it kind of gives a little bit, so you're not shocking the anchor, basically.
Right.
You're not
Right.
full force on the anchor. It just kind of gives a little bit, and it'll slow the fall down a little bit too. So that's the only reason why I use my backpack. I just kind of throw my backpack right into the knot right there, and it'll kind of give a little give. And then as I climb, so you had a question about this. I was using a lot of munter hitches, and you're like, well, you only have to do it at the bottom. The reason why I do a lot of munter hitches, so what happens is as you climb, the rope will just slide down all of your anchors, and it'll try to keep on going down just through gravity. It'll try to keep going down to the ground.
Right.
So what happens if this happens, you'll fall a lot further. You're going to increase your fall. So that's why I put a lot of and it has to be a munter hitch. You don't want to put a clove hitch because you're shocking that anchor, and you don't want to do that. The nice thing about munter hitch, it slips a little bit, so it's not a full force on that one clip. It kind of gives a little bit, and it also keeps the rope from slipping. I know other people, they love to use like rubber bands and stuff like that. I mean, I guess that'll work too. Or you can tie a slip knot. A slip knot would even work. The problem with the slip knots is you just pull it and it'll come out. So if you...
I think in the video, well, what I said in the video was I was in the impression that the munter hitches
you were talking about
used to distribute the load across the whole system. So like you said, like the rope will actually like slip.
It does do that. So that's correct.
But now you were saying that your reason you were doing it is it prevents the rope from falling through the
down.
system.
Yeah. That just increases the slack you have, and then that increases your fall. So to minimize your fall, that munter hitch kind of keeps the rope taut throughout the system.
Right.
And that's kind of what you want.
The reason that's possible is because you're self-belaying.
Yeah.
So from your anchor point, and that's on the ground, you're passing rope through your belay device. That's attached to your harness, attached to your hip, and you don't have to feed rope through the whole system.
Right.
Right. So
that I learned too, because I'm so used to climbing at the gunks and with like roofs and stuff. So we always use long slings.
Right. And it gets into this whole there's really like no need to extend gear. I mean,
exactly. Someone mentioned that to me and I was like, oh yeah, that's a perfect point. You don't really need to put these long slings on. The only time I sometimes put some slings on is to prevent the rope from rubbing against rock. So if there is a little tiny roof or sometimes I'll put a short sling on just to try to pull the rope out enough where it's not, scraping
that makes sense.
Rock.
Yeah.
Because the one thing you don't want is if you do fall to have it hit a sharp rock or something and, end up hitting the, going through your core, your rope or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
No, absolutely.
So that's more to just preserve the rope. But
okay.
I sometimes put like short slings.
I saw you doing that in video, and that was sort of... It didn't click right away, like the necessity of it, but
you don't need to do that because the rope is fine, but also it makes it a little bit easier to get my gear, because that's another thing that people always ask me is like, well, how do you get the gear down? So I did that climb, went all the way up. Now this climb traverses. I've had this happen a few times. The traverses are crazy to get your gear off of the wall. I've had to do some really crazy stuff. I've done something interesting, which is one of my more popular videos. I rope soloed. And there is a huge traverse at the top. It doesn't seem that big of a traverse until you come down. So when I was wrapping down, all my gear was like 20, 25 feet to the right. Now, I could just wrap down to the ground, and if I had the top fixed, I could just go back up and get all my gear and then come wrap back down. But it takes a lot longer. It's just so much easier and quicker if you can just wrap and pull your gear. Now, the problem is I was coming down and I'm like, oh, my gear is like 20, 25 feet to the right of me. And if I could swing over kind of, but that is quite a distance. If I swing over 20, 25 feet, I am going to whip back, 50 feet the other direction. I mean, it's a huge amount. So what I ended up doing is I wrapped down really far. I cleaned those gear, and then I kind of reverse aided back up and then put lots of gear in, and then came back down and got all the gear out of the wall. It was a little bit of work, but I got all the gear out. And that's
I think if you're doing, my impression is if you're doing just anytime you're always climbing everything 3 times essentially. Well,
Right.
so you would do the climb
I'm
as
trying
it
to
is.
cut out a couple steps here. So if I am doing multi pitch, the easiest thing to do is just either wrap back down or clean on the wrap like I'm doing, and then jugging back up and then.
You're right. So I guess if you're doing like just a single pitch thing, you'd
so
have
if
to
I'm
do
doing
it.
single pitch.
Yeah, you would just come up and go down. Yeah, you're right.
So if I could just get everything cleaned on the way down, it's so much easier. I'm saving myself 2 steps basically.
Right,
I don't have
right.
to go down, back up, and then back down. I can just go down, pull the rope because I'm set up on rappel at the top. So that's what I try to do. Like I said, if I really need to, I could always fix the rope. And if your rope's not long enough to go to the ground, because I was very close to the ground, but I knew I was close enough where I could down climb on the one in Delaware Water Gap. And that one I actually was okay getting all the gear out. I was way over to the right, so I'd pull gear and then I'd just swing way over to the left, and then I'd go back over and get another piece and then swing back over. But as you go down, it's a lot easier to clean. But that usually those small traverses are they're a pain in the ass to clean, because usually when you're actually climbing with somebody, they're climbing up the line and they have the rope and they can clean a traverse no problem. I mean,
well, so long as they don't fall off of it.
Well, I mean, even if they do that, they can just
then you're just in air. You're not.
Yeah, you can figure it out. But it's a little tricky when you're rope soloing and you're trying to clean, just a single pitch the way I do.
Yeah.
But if you're doing multi pitch, you pretty much, just climb, come down, and then clean it on the way up. When you're jugging up, it's probably easier to jug up the fixed rope and clean on the way up, just like you would if you were actually like aiding.
So you're saying like you do the climb and then just wrap back down to the beginning of the last pitch.
Yeah.
And then as you're jugging, you're doing the cleaning.
Yeah. You either wrap down unless you can't get to this spot because it's way over to the right or left.
Yeah.
You could just wrap down the same line you went up. It's just a pain in the ass because you'd have to keep on passing gear, which isn't that hard.
Okay.
So you just, take the gear off and clip it above and keep on doing it that way.
That makes sense.
If it's on a traverse. So, yeah. Rope
soloing was like this, I don't know, it's been this sort of this weird, obscure niche discipline within climbing. And I in my impression anyway, I mean, I know you started doing it, but you weren't the only one. There's a few other people that started doing this. I think the most notable example was Pete Whitaker doing all of his Yosemite exploits. Yeah, it was. But it was the point being was like it all sort of happened at the same time, and I don't know if this was
that's a difference because I'm just doing this for my own enjoyment type deal.
Well, I think
I'm
anyone
like a
does.
novice.
I mean,
I'm just saying I'm a novice.
Right.
He's not a novice in any,
no.
like what he did basically, in case you don't know what he did. He climbed Freerider, which is the same climb that basically there's a couple differences, but it's exactly what Alex Honnold soloed going up. It's pretty much the same route. There's a couple, like I said, there's a couple differences between the actual.
I mean, that's probably the next most popular route up El Cap.
It's the easiest,
other than the nose.
It's the easiest one to actually free climb. I think is Freerider.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, even the nose.
I think that's right.
I think the nose is a little bit harder.
The nose. As far as freeing it, the nose is much harder. Well, the nose is definitely harder.
Yeah, so
but
Freerider is basically the easiest one. So he decided to solo it, and he decided to solo it within a day, which is insane because most people know this, but not only did he climb it, but he climbed it, wrapped it, and then went back up.
Yeah,
that's
right.
basically
Well,
what he
each
did.
individual pitch as he's doing it,
he would go up, and then he'd have to come back down, and then he would have to go back up and clean his gear, and then he was ready for the next pitch. And so basically he did each pitch 3 times, if you really think about it. I mean, I guess wrapping's pretty
well, I guess he ascended each pitch twice, but
say twice.
He traversed the pitch 3 times. Yeah.
And he did it under 24 hours, I think.
Yeah, it was in a day. I mean, I think it was like a week prior, he had done Half Dome and Mount Watkins in a day.
But rope solo?
Rope soloing.
The soloing that...
I believe rope soloing.
What is that called when they solo, but they use aid?
I know Honnold calls it daisy soloing. I think.
Soloing.
Well, that's what he said. He when he did his Triple Crown thing.
Yeah, because they would just grab whatever's on there, and basically the same thing when they try to race up the nose. They just use whatever's. If there's a clip on the wall.
Well, I mean, this is they're not freeing. They're not necessarily
speed.
freeing it. They're doing it entirely for speed.
Yeah.
You know, yes, anything goes.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I mean, it's just climbing is all it is. I mean, it's you can call it aid climbing. That's fine. Doing the nose in under 2 hours is impressive. I don't care by any metric. Like, it just
it's insane.
It is insane.
I can't. Yeah, what was when they first did it? It took them weeks. It took them months. When Harding did it.
Oh, that was like 8 months.
8 months.
I mean,
and then
but I think
cutting it down. But then Royal Robbins
did it in like
I think it was about a week.
Yeah, I want to say it was 7 days.
Yeah,
I don't.
Like
it was something like that, or 7 to 9, and he did it by his own ethic that he was pushing.
But and then they just keep on cutting down the time more and more and more. And 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's just nuts.
I just well, maybe like a month ago, I read one of John Long's books. If I can remember it, Rock Jocks, Wall Rats, and Hangdogs, I think was what it's called. But he was talking about when himself and Jim Bridwell and Billy Westbury
when they risked up it,
when they did it in under a day. Which was like
it was like crazy back then. That's the iconic picture though.
That's the iconic picture. They're all in the meadow, just sort of posing as champions of the valley.
Yeah, that's
but what he mentioned in that book was after how fast this record began to like drop after they did that. But prior to that, I mean, it was pretty much just. There were attempts to do it under a day, but the people that were attempting it weren't fully committing to do it in a day. Right. So they would bring gear up. They'd haul gear as they're climbing it because they wanted to be prepared if they were to fail. And
I think those guys were the first ones like, hey,
and Jim Bridwell, I guess, was the one that sort of spearheaded it, and he said, like, the problem is these guys are they're not committing to doing it in a day.
The problem is these guys are on acid, so I mean, you drop some acid, we'll just run up this damn thing.
Which may be how it went down. But then once they proved that you could do it in a day, the people after them, and they're climbing it faster. Yeah. And it kept, kept
on going like Florian.
Yeah. Florian, he was, he was the machine as far as that.
He did it with a lot of guys. He kept on switching whoever was available. They just run up. He even did it with Honnold.
He did.
And then, what was it? Brad Goldbright beat him.
Yeah, Brad Goldbright and Jim. I forget the last name.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think they made the attempt because they knew that Honnold and Tommy were going to start trying to make a sub 2 hour push, so they wanted to get their
I don't know. I think he just wanted to beat Honnold. But,
I'm sure. I mean, who doesn't? But that's just. I have a feeling that their attempt was because they knew that Hall and Caldwell were going to make this like crazy push to try to beat 2 hours up the thing, which is still just
it's nuts,
amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah,
that's impressive.
You're not going to do that rope soloing. Yeah, that's just
no. Well, no. I mean, Whitaker did it. I mean, 24 hours is nuts.
I mean, given what he did,
I think Honnold was like, dude, he rope sold that in less than 24 hours. Other than he did do it in 4 hours?
He did in 4,
or something. That's pretty.
But
impressive.
I mean, he's not carrying all the gear necessary to.
Yeah, I'd rather have the gear.
And I'm not. I don't get me wrong.
Yeah. That's way impressive being able to do that.
Yeah.
Damn. So is there anything else with rope soloing? I think we hit most of the trying to think.
You tell me. I mean, if you had any like real like rope soloing,
I've never had
thought you were gonna die situations, I guess, but
no, not really. The worst was the easiest climb I did was 3 Pines, and I was just the end of the day, and I'm like, I just want to run up one. That's when I did something interesting. It's right next to it. And I'm like, I'll just run up.
So
it.
3 Pines, just for anyone who doesn't know, is like a 5.3.
Yeah, it's
really, really, really simple.
I could probably solo the whole climb, no problem.
Yeah.
But as I was climbing, all the cracks were filled with ice. Like something interesting is more in the sun.
Well, it's on the face.
Yeah, it was on the face, so I didn't have a problem with it. But then I ran up 3 Pines, and it was cold. Like it was just all ice in there. Oh man, I was just like, oh yeah, look at that icicle right there. Damn, it was brutal, but easy climb, so I wasn't too worried about it. It was a little chilly at the top because it's so isolated too from the sun, because it's like that. What is that? The left or right facing corner right there. Kind of once you get into it, the bottom's kind of facing, once you're into it, it's right facing corner, and it's brutally cold. But yeah, I'd love to get on it. We gotta get on the dangler sometime. That just looks awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. I mean, I haven't never have gone out the dangler.
It's just like it's like a pain in the ass, because you're like, well, should we run up something interesting?
Yeah, it's one of those
like, it takes some time.
I think part of it is like it never has really appealed to me.
It's really short. It's just a couple.
Yeah,
moves.
well, I sort of look at it as like this novelty climb. Like it's just like little
fun,
buttress.
It's like there's nothing.
You get out there and you're all exposed for
Yeah.
just one little bit of buttress, but it's not. And I mean that's cool in its own right. But it's not like something interesting is traditionally how you'd climb up to it. I suppose like if you did higher standard, that would be a really good route
Does that go all the way up?
I believe it
they
does.
have the anchors, but I don't know.
Well, I think it goes all the way up in 2 pitches. Like you.
Oh, then you can do the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's been a while since I've been on it. But like that's like a really, really great 5.9, easy 5.9. But yeah, the thing with the dangler is something interesting, which is a popular climb. So you have a ton of people doing that, and then you get up to that ledge, and then you have the line waiting for people to go out the dangler.
You have 3 Pines too.
Right, and then you have 3 Pines, which is like, I mean, guides will take people up 3 Pines because it's such an easy climb, and it's just a lot of people, and I'm only ever in the gunks on the weekend, so it's just it's generally you just get on stuff that's available, you know. The harder you climb, the easier that is.
Well, that's why the winter time's great, because you're just like, what?
I know. So like now would be a great time to do it. Other than the fact that
your ass off, but
your hands would be cold.
Anything. I know what I do want to talk about is like I do want to definitely solo aid climb some big wall and bring my portage up and just like
you should. I think that would be you really should.
Do that. I think I have
Eric. What's his Eric's Adventures? I think is his name of his channel, but I can't remember his last name.
Oh, the guy that did Zion and stuff like that.
He has a couple on there.
He disappeared though. Yeah.
Well, he hasn't posted anything for a while.
He had some cool
but he has.
videos.
Like so, he did Space Shot, and he has that. And this is all like POV climbing.
Yeah, I think one time he ran out of water or something. He's like, dude, I'm going down.
Yeah. just to set the stage that this guy head out to a specific climb. It was just himself. He has his rope, he has his gear, and then whatever else he can fit in a haul bag.
Yeah.
And he was just doing like Space Shot, I think is the one Zion that he has. I don't know if he did Midnight Lightning.
I would totally do all those climbs if I lived
not Midnight Lightning, I'm sorry.
If I was just there, I would be constantly doing it because they're a little bit easier to get onto than like the valley. Like the valley's
right.
If you're in Yosemite, it's people are experienced and they're going to be like, oh, dude, you're just screwing us up. You're slowing us all down. Where it's like I feel like if you go to Zion. It gets crowded too. Don't get me wrong. But I think it'd be a little bit easier.
National Park.
I think it'd be a little bit easier to get on those and spend some time and just solo up them and stuff.
I wish I had some stuff in like Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Dude, if that was in my backyard, I'd just be like, I know those inside out.
I know. This is like one of these like. This is why you should move out west.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's where all the good stuff is.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, that's the problem with living here. I mean, like you're in the middle sort of a lot, nothing big, but it's all, it takes a day to get there. You know, I mean, there's a reason we're driving three and a half hours of the Gunks shot just to,
right, to get it. All right, well, wrap it up. What's your channel and all? You want
First Person Beta.
First Person Beta.
It's on. If you search for it in YouTube, you'll find it because channel names are bizarro in YouTube world. Firstpersonbeta.com. My Instagram's at First Person Beta, and that will. I also have a Patreon page, First Person Beta. I have material up on all of it. I generally use my Instagram as like sort of like a logging, not vlogging, but blogging sort of platform. And then like the videos themselves, I'll post up on YouTube. So
this is where we're at.
Yeah.
A picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm Gunkclimber. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and that's about it.
Rock and roll.